Look, it's fine. Honestly, I'm just confused. Innocent until proven otherwise, obviously, but man, I really hope James Harden isn't mixed up in this. Harden's caught right in the middle of a massive scandal that caught everyone off guard, and people are already saying his career is basically done. The guy's finished. Let's be real, he's washed up. Totally washed. I'm calling it right now. It's over. The news looks grim, but there's a whole lot more to the story. See, once the real story behind that ruling surfaced, the whole narrative flipped. Let's dig into this. The spark that ignited it, James Harden spent years stacking up NBA awards while quietly piling up a mountain of civil court filings. All the legal battles, claims of staged violence, and heavy accusations, bad debts and negligence followed him from Houston to Philly to LA and even Cleveland. Right now, every single one of those ghosts is coming back for him. To get why Harden's in this legal mess today, you have to go back to 2016 because that's when it all started in a Houston strip club. Moses Malone Jr., son of the legendary Moses Malone, sued Harden for allegedly setting up a brutal attack against him. The motive? A Facebook post. Malone Jr. had publicly called out the high price of Harden's youth basketball camp, claiming it was basically unaffordable for kids from the neighborhood. According to the court docs, that one post was the breaking point. This news hit right during a really rough postseason stretch for Harden and Houston. He had just finished a regular season that had him in the MVP conversation, but the playoffs were a disaster. Besides failing on the court, he now had this massive scandal. The suit named V Live Strip Club over on Richmond Avenue as the crime scene. It was right near the Houston Galleria, though the place is shut down now. According to the suit, when Malone arrived that night in June, he was jumped by guys led by Darian Blunt, a club employee. The group was allegedly carrying handguns and even assault rifles. They didn't just talk either. They supposedly punched and kicked Moses in the face over and over again. Some of Blunt's crew even used their guns to pistol whip him. They knocked him flat on the ground and then just robbed him blind. The filing claims they ripped the diamond earrings right out of his ears and took his other jewelry. Look, I'm not making any of this up. I'm telling you, this is the real deal. I was cornered, but the story doesn't end with Darian Blunt. The heaviest blow in the lawsuit was aimed straight at Harden. The paperwork accuses the star of setting up the assault back in 2016 by paying a crew $20,000 in cash. It specifically claims Harden handed Blunt $20,000 to handle the job. This isn't just about Harden being in the wrong place at the wrong time. This was a direct hit. It was claimed he bankrolled a hit on the son of a guy who helped build the Houston franchise. People's initial reactions were surprisingly calm, measured, and pretty level-headed. Honestly, nobody wanted to buy it. Look, he is innocent until proven guilty, but you would hate to think Harden would sink that low. The friction here mattered because of the history with Malone Jr. on the socials, but the legal filing depicted someone who turned that frustration into something much more dangerous. Naturally, journalists started digging for answers. Channel 2 did try to contact the Rockets. We also reached out to Harden's agents to get some kind of statement on this lawsuit, but so far, nothing. We have yet to get any kind of reply. Zero feedback, no denials, nothing. Just this heavy silence from Harden's camp that honestly spoke volumes at the time. But eventually that silence broke, not through a mic, but via a ruling from a Texas court. In 2022, the judge cleared him, tossing all the claims from that Moses Malone Jr. case entirely. He walked away without criminal charges. That chapter was officially over, or so we thought. Turns out this would not be his last trip to a Houston court. The legal headaches were just beginning. The vibes shifted. The next drama was not some random club goer. It was way more personal than that. Harris. That club scrap and the pattern everyone was too scared to name. Way before the legal filings and the formal depositions, a clear trend was emerging on camera for everyone to see. 2021, Harden's name hits a police report after some drama at a club. The phone footage went everywhere. It was shaky, pure chaos, essentially the kind of video that leaves you totally confused. It is popping off, someone yells. Suddenly the camera spots Harden in the mix. Yo, we are out here and look, there is James Harden right there. He looks ready to fight, but the guy recording isn't worried. He is loving every second. It was basically entertainment. By this point in his career, this kind of stuff was almost expected from him. Famous baller, club drama, Tuesday night madness. Standard. The cops mentioned him, sure, but no actual charges came from that specific night. Another spot, another scrap, and yet another cycle of headlines met with zero response. He took that same energy to France. In July 2021, French police actually detained him during Fashion Week. He and Lil Baby were both taken into custody. Now, these two have a bond that goes way deeper than just being famous. It is one of those celebrity friendships that perfectly mixes business and pleasure. A legit personal connection. They got tight around 2019 or 2020, right when Harden was the biggest star in basketball, and Lil Baby was absolutely taking over the rap game. What stood out was how inseparable they were not just at red carpets, but in everyday life. They flew together, hit the clubs together, and were basically always in the same circle. Harden was basically the guy who showed Lil Baby the high life. We are talking massive shopping halls in Paris, where they would just drop serious cash on high-end designer gear like it was nothing. Baby has actually been open about how much James taught him regarding fashion and what it really means to live like a worldwide superstar. But it was not just about spending money, they had real business synergy. James stayed backing his tracks and boosting the Lil Baby brand whenever he could. On the flip side, Baby injected that raw hip-hop energy and cultural weight into James's already over-the-top public persona. A perfect crossover basketball meets the rap game in the best way possible. This specific scene at the event, honestly, it felt like a movie. You had Fashion Week, A-list stars, and cameras flashing everywhere. Just the day before, the two of them were out together, fully captured by the press. But things took a turn around 4:30. Local Paris police pulled them over because they apparently smelled weed coming from the car. Baby got cuffed. James was held for a bit, but walked away clean with zero charges filed against him. It is that same story again, Harden, right in the middle of some total mess. And somehow he walks away without a single legal scratch on his record. Meanwhile, Baby was stuck in a cell on suspicion of hauling marijuana. Word is he supposedly had about 20 grams of flour on him. Just imagine that. You fly to Paris for the fashion and the vibes, looking for new trends, then suddenly you are in a police station. For James, Paris was just a blip. Sure, he was not arrested, but when you look at all these incidents together, Houston, then Paris. The Moses Malone case. All these club reports were painting a picture of a guy who constantly needed lawyers on speed dial. But here is the kicker, it was not getting better. Not at all. Actually, things were about to ramp up big time. Even if Paris and the club stuff did not lead to jail time, they set the stage for something much darker that was coming down the line. We are talking back in Houston, inside a private bash at Harden's own place. But this time, the legal heat was not just on James alone. This case targeted his home, his inner circle, and the security team working for him. Usually these suits follow a pattern. James is just near the violence. He is around the trouble. He happens to be there when someone ends up getting injured. But the 2025 lawsuit changed everything. New Year's at the Mansion, December 31st, 2024. A lockdown party at James's Houston pad, the kind where phones are off until things get ugly. By June 23rd, 2025, a local agent named Marissa Watley filed suit in Harris County. The legal paperwork called out Harden's own nephew, Justice Armani Blackburn, and James Harden himself, plus some unidentified guards working the property that night. The filing went into brutal detail about Watley's night, leaving almost nothing to the imagination. She alleged she was drugged after sipping from a bottle Blackburn handed her. She blacked out. Then, while she was unconscious in a bedroom, he reportedly molested her. Harden isn't being accused of being in that room. He didn't do the deed, but the lawsuit won't let him slide. Watley's lawyers claim Harden's guards knew exactly what was happening at that party. They saw her condition. Other women were passed out, Blackburn had a history, and yet they did absolutely nothing. These negligence claims, totally surgical. The suit says the security team just watched instead of stepping in. Apparently, they even threw Watley's friends off the property. The only people who could have helped. When those friends tried to find her later, the guards lied about her location, actively blocking any kind of rescue. The suit also mentions negligent supervision. That's a heavy legal blow, holding Harden, the owner and boss, personally responsible. He basically allowed a system where vulnerable guests were left unprotected. This wasn't just some split-second mistake made during a hectic party, it was a pattern. It highlights a deliberate culture in that house where protecting the host mattered more than the guests. Whatley wants a jury trial and a massive amount in damages. The Wigdor law firm isn't some small boutique operation. They handle massive civil rights and employment lawsuits. Their name on the paper means this is getting serious institutional attention. Harden's team stayed silent once the filing went public. And as of this recording, nothing has really happened to Harden, his nephew, or any of those guards. It's still just civil. But honestly, the civil label doesn't mean much here because of what Whatley's lawyers actually put on paper. The specific timeline, the way every employee failed to keep the guests safe, it reads less like a lawsuit and more like an indictment of everything that happened on New Year's Eve 2024. The public's reaction was instant. By the time this dropped, Harden's fans had already watched him dodge legal trouble for nearly 10 years. His reputation was shot. On social media, the quiet rumors finally turned into something much louder and uglier. The version of James Harden people actually liked was being rewritten. Restaurants, rent, and wrongful death. When the Whatley suit hit in summer 2025, Harden was already drowning. Another legal disaster entirely. This story? It's a messy mix of cash, a dining spot, and a fatality. Harden had this place in Houston called 13. Then, around September 2025, his landlord, Midtown Scout Square Property, sued him for over $2.2 million, claiming he owed a fortune in rent and fees. By 2025, the doors were shut and the locks were changed. Later on, they even dragged his mom, Manya Willis, into the legal crosshairs as a defendant. Look, we aren't talking about assault or anything like that here. It's not the sort of scandal that blows up Twitter with angry hashtags, but honestly, it probably hits his bank account harder than any of his other legal headaches right now. Because $2.2 million bucks? That's serious money, even if you're an NBA star on a massive contract. By the 1st of April, 2026, his lawyers were scrambling to push back depositions originally set for May. They gave two reasons: the high-stakes NBA playoffs and concerns over his mother's health. This all went down right as the Cavaliers were grinding through their regular season stretch. So you've got Harden trying to ball out at an elite level while, at the same time, his legal team is fighting tooth and nail over unpaid restaurant bills. Then there's the other one. A December 2024 suit hit 13 with a wrongful death claim. It says the restaurant kept serving drinks to a guy named Christian Daniel Herrera in late 2023, until Herrera eventually got behind the wheel and caused a crash that killed someone. To be clear, this is about business liability, not a personal charge against Harden himself. But it's his name on the front door. He's the one responsible for keeping the lights on there. Now, he's linked to a case where someone actually lost their life. The sheer variety of these legal battles is what's truly mind-blowing. The Moses Malone Jr. situation? That was all about violence. Then you've got the Whatley claim dealing with alleged assault under his own roof. These restaurant issues are different. They're about money gone wrong and the devastating fallout of over-serving someone who then went out and killed a person. On paper, these cases are all separate. Harden wears a different hat in each: the guy in charge, the landlord, the boss. But when you pile them all up, the picture is much bigger than any single case. It's basically a 10-year timeline of constant legal trouble. The actual courts haven't really thrown the book at him criminally, sure. But public opinion? That's a whole different ballgame with its own set of rules. And honestly, the fans made up their minds long before any judge weighed in. While all this legal paperwork was flying around, people were already counting him out and predicting his retirement. Not because of the law, but because of his game. That talk about his declining skills, it might actually sting more than any of these court cases ever could. Whether he's washed or just over it, as of April 2026, he's a Cleveland Cavalier. The road he took to get there was anything but smooth. Tracking his path from Houston to Brooklyn, then Philly, LA, and now Cleveland, it is basically a map of burnt bridges and diminishing returns. Every single move feels like it is defined more by the messy exit than the actual arrival. Look, James Harden has had one of the most wild and polarizing runs in NBA history. His whole career is this weird tug-of-war between personal greatness and jumping from team to team chasing a ring. Harden really hit that god-tier superstar status during his years with the Houston Rockets. That was the place where he truly made his mark and showed everyone just how unstoppable he could be. Everyone knew him for that signature, one-of-a-kind style on the court. especially those lethal step-back threes, and the way he made getting to 40 points look like a walk in the park. During that Houston era, he was untouchable, even locking up the league most valuable player trophy in 2018. He was consistently at the top of the scoring charts, and he was a permanent fixture on the All-Star team for years. He dragged those Rockets teams deep into the postseason, coming agonizingly close to the finals. But for all that effort, he just could not secure a championship for the city. Eventually, the roster started fading, and Harden wanted out, heading to the Brooklyn Nets in 2021. People were hyped. I mean, he was joining forces with Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. Most fans figured a championship was pretty much a foregone conclusion. In Brooklyn, Harden actually evolved his game. He stopped focusing purely on his own points and became a pass-first floor general for his stars. But even though that lineup looked terrifying on paper, it never quite clicked. Injuries and a mountain of other drama derailed the team before they could ever reach the top. Unhappy yet again, Harden decided he needed a fresh start. That led to the trade to the Philadelphia 76ers to pair up with Joel Embiid. In Philly, everyone talked about how he was showing a much more mature side of his basketball IQ. He even led the league in assists and played a huge part in helping Embiid secure his own MVP. He definitely had some huge games here and there, specifically in the playoffs, but they still could not quite make it to the promised land. Friction with the front office started heating up, which inevitably led to another swift departure. By 2023, he was moving back west to join the Los Angeles Clippers. This felt like yet another last chance for him to finally get that ring. He was playing alongside heavy hitters like Kawhi Leonard and Paul George. At this point in his journey, he was leaning heavily into playmaking and controlling the tempo. However, just like the previous stops, health issues and inconsistent play kept them from reaching their full potential. And now, there is all this talk about Harden potentially heading to the Cleveland Cavaliers. While nothing is set in stone just yet, it is a wild thought. For Harden, the basketball narrative and his legal issues have been running side by side for a long time. Then in 2025, those two storylines finally slammed together into a single viral moment. Honestly, I think we are all still hung up on the ghost of who he used to be. James Harden, the name still carries weight, but the criticism from fans is getting sharper. His brand still has some gravity to it, clearly. The idea of James Harden, the MVP, the scoring machine, the step-back king, that version still haunts basketball culture. But the version we see now, the guy wearing a Cavaliers jersey, the one who is signing whatever deal is left on the table instead of calling the shots, you do not really feel the difference until you see him play live, right? And you are just like, man, where did that explosion go? I mean, he looks all right, but he can't get to the rim or find that same vertical anymore. Look, it's a wrap for him, Slick. I'm not just talking trash here. I'm just calling what I see. That insane burst that turned Harden into a literal cheat code back in the day, that killer first step that ruined every single defender in the lane, yeah, that's long gone. Honestly, he's washed. I'm just going to say it. No point beating around the bush. He's washed. And in the NBA, washed is basically a death sentence. We aren't talking about a slight dip or just getting older. It means that one superpower you had is officially extinct. The defense figured you out, you didn't evolve, and now you're just another guy on the court. And here's the cold truth. No legal win is going to change that reality. Harden could literally walk away from every single lawsuit right now with a win. That Whatley thing could be thrown out tomorrow. The landlord coming after him for the restaurant, they could settle for peanuts. Even that case with his nephew could just vanish into thin air. Even if he wins big, it won't restore that insane vertical on his jumper or the explosive first step that used to leave everyone in the dust. The drama in the courtroom and the drama on the court, two totally different beasts. They just happen to be spiraling at the exact same time. Both basically painted this picture of a star falling apart physically and as a brand. But the finish lines don't look anything alike. One gets settled with a gavel. The other finished quietly somewhere between LA and Cleveland once it was obvious that teams weren't exactly lining up to beg for his services like they used to. Look, James Harden's resume is obviously legendary. We're talking about one of the greatest buckets to ever play the game. Former MVP, 10-time All-Star, the guy was a monster. He even crushed the league in both scoring and assists at the same time. But man, that trophy case is sitting right next to a mountain of legal headaches. So while he beat the 2017 Moses Malone Jr. case back in 2022, the Whatley negligence claim remains undecided. And those restaurant lawsuits still just messy civil fights. But on the hardwood, The jury's already back with a verdict. The Harden who could bully franchises and rewrite his own contracts because he was him, that guy is history. The lawyers are still doing their thing in court. Lawyers are still billing, but the hoops that made it all worth talking about? At this point, that whole era is officially over. So I want to hear from you guys. In a league where your name is everything, can Harden actually walk away without a permanent stain on his legacy? Drop your thoughts in the comments down below. And if you want to see more like this, click that card appearing on your screen right now.